His resume cover his resume covers working for J. Cole, Dreamville. He's currently working for ESPN. He has worked on multiple on and off Broadway productions and more. Walter has a breadth of knowledge, not only in graphic design, but also in how to market yourself, how to navigate freelance work, working within strict deadlines, and collaborating with clients. A lot of skills that students are developing here at NC State. Before I pass it on to you, I just want to let everyone know that there's going to be time for questions at the end. And Walt will be doing an in-person meet and greet tomorrow at Holmes Hall in room 104 at 1:30 p.m. I'll throw that in the chat as soon as we get started. Food and drink will be provided. Without further ado, Walt, thank you, and take it away.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Marian. I'm very introverted, so this is really new to me, and I'm still trying to get used to talking to people and telling my story. I'm gonna have my wife, Nookie P. Everybody say hi, Nookie P. She is going to share the screen. Boom. And while she's about to press play to present the slide, I just want to thank Alex and NC State Libraries for having me. I'm very honored. I still believe that I'm still getting started, so being asked to do something like this really means a lot to me. It lets me know that my hard work is paying off and I continue to grow. And let's get started. So I thought a lot about what exactly to say, what to speak to you about. I went through different TED Talks. I thought about all the different workshops that I started and I attended myself. And I found that the workshops and speeches that helped me out the most were the ones of artists just telling about their lives, how they got to where they were that time. And hearing their stories often motivated me and kept me moving towards my goal. So I figured today I'd just tell you my story, how I got to this point to speak with you today. Now, this is not a guide to be successful. This is me telling you how I got to right now. This is not me telling you a certain way to how to do something, but feel free to learn from it, build from it, and let it motivate you to dream and build your own stories. To my family, these photos were not approved, so I am sorry, I love you, and we'll talk about it later. All right, growing up as a middle child, to me, it always felt a little harder to stand out. Between the cool, taller, you look how much you've grown, my older brother got, and the happy birthday parties and oh, she's so cute, my sister got, I always felt stuck with the little old lady cheek pinches and the head pats. One thing that stood out about me was my love for creating. I expressed myself through art and making things. I drew everywhere and on everything. My mother often tells the story of how whenever I'd be upset or bothered, she'd sit me down and give me some crayons and a piece of paper and I'd be at peace. As my drawing skills improved, I started getting told, you're good at this, you should be an artist. And after being told I was good at doing something 1,000 times, I became uninterested in doing something I'm good at and started finding different things that I can get better at, better ways to express myself. My dad often preached to my siblings and I to represent that we were more than Clifford, Walter, and Helen, but we were Barnetts. So whenever and whatever I did, I always knew in the back of my mind that my family's name was on my back. And I've always kept that in mind when searching for ways to express myself. That I represented more than just me. I represented a lot more than just me. Sorry. Going into high school, I expressed myself through music, and coming from a super competitive family, I focused a lot of my time on sport, mainly soccer. I would use my time improving myself and becoming a somewhat standout athlete on the field. The only reason I say somewhat is because I really didn't understand the potential that I could have had until my senior year in college. But for now, we're going to stay in high school. Senior year of high school, my dreams of becoming a Division I athlete were ruined by a combination of height and talent. I understood the reps and the grind of work that it took to get to that 5-star athlete status. And I knew that my senior year in high school was a little too late. Now I'm at the point where I'm lost. I don't know what's next. All I know is I want to go to college. I don't know where and I don't know what for. So I gathered myself and I called a timeout. But something crazy happened. I had no timeouts. Time wouldn't stop for me, so my year continued. As my last semester of high school approached, I decided to pursue a college degree in business. I wasn't excited about it, but it was something. That last semester, I had one free class I had to fill. Now, by this time, I avoided all art classes since elementary school. If your name was not Grandmommy, I refused to draw you anything. So after careful consideration, I thought I might as well take an easy elementary art class and get the easy A. Now, I did not realize that I was actually improving my art skills from elementary school to then. While avoiding art was that goal, I would still sketch and draw on something whenever I had a blank canvas in front of me. Even without pen or paper, I would envision how I would connect lines and shape to make a composition. For example, I would look into clouds and see cloud shapes and create a composition just by seeing 2 or 3 clouds. So I took the most basic art class I could find and I killed it. This was the first time where I felt no pressure to impress anybody, no pressure to draw for someone, but the freedom to create for myself. And I found that love for passion for art again. My art teacher at the time, Mr. Hubbard, who I believe is here today, shout out Mr. Hubbard, a young Black male, I looked up to him. When I would go home, I would find myself mimicking his style and feeding off his creativity. One day we were doing an exercise, he passes by my piece and grabs my attention and says those words I hate so much. You're really good at this. You should do this for a career. I told him, nah, I'm going to school for business and marketing. He then says, well, you're talented. If you're really serious about going to school for marketing, I advise you to look into graphic design. That way you can combine the 2 talents. Not knowing anything about graphic design, I immediately started looking into what a graphic designer is and what they do. I became obsessed. I continued to kill that elementary school art class. However, now I decided to do my senior project on psychological effects a logo has on a consumer. How a logo's color, shape, composition try to send a message to the consumer, reaching for his or her attention and or business. For example, how fast food logos incorporate red to make you stop, yellow to make you feel happy or positive, or even green for a sense of health and wellness. By the time I graduated, I was in love with graphic design and decided to go to school at Methodist University to study graphic design with a minor in marketing. I continued to play soccer while in college. However, now I focus my efforts towards art and design. My first few semesters in college, I wish I could say I was motivated to be the best designer to ever step foot on that campus. But the honest fact is that I was just going through the motions. I would do the bare minimum amount of work to get the good grade. I was not a slacker by any means. I was never a slacker. But the problem was I was not feeling challenged. But something happened. I found out about awards. By now, you guys know that I love challenges and I love a competition. So from then on, I made it my goal to win every accolade I could. By junior year, I was rolling and I had goals. One of these goals was to land an internship at one of the top agencies in Raleigh. I achieved this goal by landing an internship with clean advertising and design. They throw me a few projects here and there, but for the most part, it was just busy work. They just gave me intern work to keep the intern busy while we do the real projects. So one day, I went straight to the creative director and I asked him, is there anything I can do? Anything bigger? They then gave me the opportunity to create logo concepts for Carolina Ale House, its rebrand. I saw this as my first chance to make space. I created pages and pages of concepts and ideas. And by the end of the internship, I was chosen for having one of the top 3 to present to the client. Unfortunately, I completed my internship the same week of the presentation. And even more unfortunate, I found out that Carolina Ale House backed out of rebranding soon after. Although that rebranding did not pan out, I did get confirmation that I belonged, I was different, and I stood out. I got a small taste of what it feels like to be a successful designer, and I did not want that to fade, so I kept hustling. As the summer came to an end, I started gearing up for my senior year, and I stayed connected with that internship agency that I was with, eventually asking them for future job opportunities. And they would always tell me, don't worry about it. When you graduate, we got you. So naturally, I go back to school, confident as ever, because I know I have this job lined up. And my senior year goes by like a sprint rather than a smooth cruise. I knew long term I wanted to end up in New York. That was the goal. But the plan was to spend a year or two in Raleigh at this agency that had their job lined up for me and then move to New York. So graduation's coming up in a few months. I figured I'd call them and let them know to make space for me. When I called, they were like, oh, yeah, just hold on. We got you. Don't worry about it. We'll find a spot ASAP. ASAP turns to days. Days turns to weeks. Weeks turns to months, which then become we don't have anything available. Next thing you know, I graduate and the job search began. Now I want to pause here because I know at this point in the story is where a lot of people who are in this chat will be in a couple of months. I just want to stop here and say, it's fine, calm down, gather yourself, but don't get comfortable. I applied to so many places for months and months with no luck. When I got to this point of making this presentation, I was reminded of my first freelance gig. Finally, I got some real work. I was asked to make a poster design for Tavis Smiley's production company based on his book, Death of a King. I put everything I had into this one piece. I told stories. I had reasoning behind everything I did. I followed every request Tavis and his team had presented to me to the best that I could. However, what I did not know is that they were talking to another French artist. His name is difficult to pronounce, but I remember being told that this artist was recognized worldwide. So they proceeded to let me know that Tavis loved my work and was torn between the two pieces. No matter what they said after that, the only thing in my mind was, I can hang out with world recognized artists and stand toe to toe with them. I was cocky, sorry. Whoever this mystery French artist was, I felt that day I was standing toe to toe with him. The next day I got a call from his management team. They started by congratulating me on my great work, knowing that this was my first project ever out of college. They tell me that Tavis really loved my work and he really preferred my piece. However, they will be using the other artist's work for the show. Not because they loved it, but because Tavis's management team wanted to use his artwork, this artist's connection to PBS to push a production TV deal. After that phone call, I remember just sitting at the table, sketching, drawing, just random doodles, thinking about how or what could I have done differently? Is being toe-to-toe enough? Or is there something I'm not tapping into? I was happy I had the opportunity, but I was also angry. They didn't choose my work for an outside reason. And I was also sad that I still had no job. I knew my time was coming, I just didn't know when. I learned from this project that even though my piece didn't get chosen, make an impression and they'll always come back. Later that month, I found out the show was also canceled. As I continued to connect with whoever I ran into within the months passing by, knowing that New York was in my plan all along, I decided to talk to my cousin Daniel, who at the time was finishing his 7th Broadway show, about the possibility of working with him. I was straightforward with him. I said, hey, I want to move to New York. He looks at me all confused. He's like, why? Okay, why? I continued to try and explain and express all my passion and why I wanted to move to New York. And Daniel just listened. Later that month, he commissioned me for his artwork for his solo show entitled The Jam. Daniel gave me a concept and we went forth with it. After design, Daniel mentions that I need to come and check out the show that I designed for. Later, next thing you know, I packed my bags and I flew to New York and met up with another cousin of mine, Kristen. excited to be away from home, but even more excited to be in the city where I envisioned myself for years. That weekend, seeing my artwork in New York meant a lot to me. Even though it was on like three or four fences, I walked around with so much pride and my chest was out. I looked crazy. The next morning I got up, Kristen was on her way to work. I told her I'm going to the city. She, knowing that I've only been in the city for 2 days and knowing that the city is an hour and a half away from where she lives, she gave me specific instructions, very specific instructions, and sends me on my way to get lost. After spending hours of exploring and getting lost in New York, I met up with Daniel again, and we spent about an hour talking in the park. The conversation ends with him telling me, "Yo, I need you to move here." I said, "Nah, I'm scared." I give all these excuses. I have no money. He says, "Everybody in New York's scared. Everybody in New York is broke. You can do what you want to do, but I need you in the city and you need to be in the city." He then continues and says, "If your dreams are scaring you, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough." I go home. Ever since that trip, all I wanted to do was go back. I decided to get a job at Walmart just to save a little money. And during this time, Daniel will occasionally text me, "When am I moving?" 3 months passed by, and after a lot of prayer and planning, I let my parents know that I booked a one-way flight to New York. And like always, they continued to feed into my dream. I flew to New York and lived with my cousin and Duke alumni, Kristen. Go UNC. While in North Carolina, the goal, that's Kristen, everybody. She's a hater. See, you throw me off, Kristen. Dang.
Sorry.
Now, okay. So I moved with Kristen. The goal while in New York City was to meet with as many people as possible. Living in North Manhattan, I would have to commute an hour and a half anytime I would have to go to the city. I took that commute 4 to 5 times a week. Now in North Carolina, you could just go into any agency and ask to meet with the head honcho, the hiring manager, and half the time that'll work. But in New York, I tried that. I tried to walk into this big tower and say, "Hey, I want to meet with the head person at Spaco," and the doorman just looked at me crazy. And then I had to realize I had to adjust. After realizing that I can't just walk into these offices, I would sit outside the office instead and email anybody who may be able to help. And it only worked a few times. When I was not applying, I was often getting lost in the city. I would pass out my resumes and business cards to any and everybody. If I saw you and you looked like you needed a graphic designer, I would introduce myself and made sure to give you my resume and my card. It wasn't enough for me to speak and promote myself in a professional manner. I also had to present myself in a professional manner too. Therefore, I would go out in a suit and tie. If I was not in a suit and tie, I would always make sure that I was presentable. I never knew who I would run into. 3 months go by, and I received a few interests from a couple companies, and the feedback was always similar. They loved my passion, loved my work, loved my drive, but the person I was being compared to already had experience and was already established. They didn't have to find a place in New York. They already had 2 years experience. They had proven capability of navigating in the city. I was just a young Black designer from North Carolina with a dream to work in New York versus somebody who lived in the city their whole life. After getting that a couple of times, I grew discouraged and started looking at flights back to North Carolina. The day that I was looking at flights, I got a call from 14th Street Y, a Jewish community center in the East Village looking for a designer. They told me that they got my resume from a friend of a friend of a friend. Still don't know who they got it from. I go to the interview, and they hire me within the next few weeks. Finally, I got a stable job. I moved to Brooklyn, Now, if I could learn this subway system, I'll be good. I knew that this job was my way to stay in New York, but I also knew that this was not my end goal. Working at the 14th Street Y gave me great confidence. I helped build their branding and saw my work throughout the city. I continue to make connections, connecting with people in the field of sport, Broadway, and music. One being Creative Vice President of Creative Services at Dreamville, Felton Brown. One morning, he invited me to the Dreamville office. I took the day off so I could spend it there. When there, I remember asking him a ton of questions, being curious and probably not trying to touch everything. And I noticed that Felton was working on some social assets for the Revenge of the Dreamer 3 tour album cover. I asked if there was anything I can do to help. He asked me if I was able to animate reflective lighting on a trophy. With little hesitation, I was like, yeah, I can do that, confident. He then airdrops me a bunch of files and asked me how long does it take for me to get this back to him? Clueless, I replied, a day or two. I didn't know anything about it. He then says, cool. I walked to the back of the office and immediately YouTube how to make lighting effect. Within an hour, I had all the files set and ready to go. Now, I'm nervous. I want these to be perfect. It's my first project for a big client. So I didn't let Felton know that I was done. But instead, I went home and reviewed the files over 100 times. I then emailed the files to Felton and he replied to me with what I know now as his way of saying, good job. I continue to pass and lean forward and continue my goals. I leaned on Felton a lot as I grew more and more as a creative. And he helped me a lot. And even to this day, me and Felton have a great connection. Fast forward in 2020, Daniel's solo show that originally brought me to New York City has taken new heights. So I figured it'd be a good time to upgrade the graphics as well as myself. So I accepted a position as social designer for Spaco, one of the lead advertising agencies for Broadway. There, I had the opportunity to teach myself how to animate motion graphics and create social ads for Bat Out of Hell, Cats, Beetlejuice, and many more. I used the knowledge that I learned there to add to the creative for The Jam. I made sure to never stop learning. One day during a meeting, Felton, Daniel, and we discussed what current projects we were working on. Felton mentions to us that he's working on this logo that needs to get done. Daniel asked him, when do you need the logo by? Felton replied, I need it by the end of the week, so I'm fixing it up. And Daniel points to me while eating his food, rude, and he says, Walt can have 10 concepts for you to buy tomorrow. Without missing a beat, he then excuses himself to grab more food and leaves Felton and I at the table alone. Felton looked at me and asked, do I want this? Now I'm nervous. I nod, yeah. The conversation continues. I go home that afternoon and work the rest of the night on sketches and concepts. And I go to sleep with pages and pages of sketches and concepts on my bed. The logo I was working on was J. Cole's signature Puma shoe, Dreamer. After the Dreamer logo, Felton continued to trust me more and more, offering more collaborative opportunities to collaborate with him and J. Cole and Dreamer. My 2020 seemed to be going off amazing. March comes along and COVID took over. I lost my position with Spaco. I moved back to North Carolina and I had to do what everybody seemed to have to do, adjust. I continued to work for the 14Y at home. And I also continued to accept any commission work as it comes. Felton, J. Cole, and I continue to build and collaborate on multiple projects, one being a custom court design for Cole, and another being the latest album, the off-season logo. This is where I was invited to be at the cover shoot and the opportunity to meet J. Cole for the first time. I continue to receive accolades from those who knew me and knew my story. However, I still had that mentality of this is not the end. Frankly, this is still just the beginning. I knew and envisioned where I wanted to be, and I know that this was just the start. Still working from home, I understood that in order to be where I want to be, I have to continue to learn and grow. So I decided to research and pursue different opportunities, leading me to a quick meet and greet with the creative director at ESPN. After the conversation that I had with him and the many more to follow, he then tells me, I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know for what exactly, but he will find his way to work with me on something. Later, I accept the position as ESPN production designer, where I'm currently lead designer for Get Up Morning Show, as well as working on First Take, Sports Center, This Is Then, and any other production on the ESPN network. Now, once again, this is my story. This is how I got to where I am today. This is not the end. This is only now. Without the love and support of my grandparents, family, friends, co-workers, and the old ladies pinching my cheeks, I would not be able to talk to you today. If I could give advice to little me who refused to draw, I let them know it's okay to express yourself however you like. If I could give advice to the high school soccer star, I tell them to stay humble, but don't lose that confidence. If I could give advice to college me, I tell them never settle. If I can give advice to the nervous boy going to New York for the first time, I let him know that, your hustle pays off. And today I still remember that if my dreams don't scare me, they're not big enough. To my parents, I want to thank you. Thank you for buying the art sets. Thank you for teaching me how to be a gentleman, and thank you for feeding into my passions. And to my wife, she encouraged me. She tells me to keep dreaming, and she supports my vision. She calms me down, and she keeps me smiling. Dang it. Thank you, NC State Libraries. Thank you, brother, sister. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Felton. Keep dreaming. Yeah. Ooh, Alex, come talk to me, man.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I had to take a moment to get myself together.
Nah, you good, you good. My family's emotional, so I saw my mom mess me up.
It's funny when you were telling your story, I felt like I was rooting for you along the way, even though I know where you're at this moment. But just thank you for being so open and being honest. I have a ton of questions that I'd love to ask you, but I do want to leave it open to the people who are watching. Again, thank you all. This is a Making Space event. We're talking to Walter Barnett. Thank you so much. I think the best way to go about this is if you throw your questions in the chat, then I can relay them to Walter. But yeah, please ask any and all questions.
Yeah.
We are now open. We have
Oh, snap. So I see Daniel's here. What's up, Daniel? I see Juice is here. Paradigm's here. Cousins, family. Braz is here. Tanya's here. Hey, family. Dee Dee's here. Hey, Dee Dee.
Yeah, a lot of love in the chat. A lot of people saying thank you.
Thank you.
I'll start off the question and then maybe people can do right into the chat other questions. Oh, here we go. Where do you get your artistic inspiration and what artists do you enjoy, look up to?
Well, most of my inspiration comes from my life. My family is really artistic family. Excuse me. My granddad started it. He gave it to my mom. My mom gave it to me. And then my sister's also an artist, so we kind of bounce off each other all the time. Favorite artist? There was an artist, I'm just say recently, his name was Adi Hugh. He recently passed away, but I followed him on Instagram. He's just this amazing typography designer. And I really dig him, as well as Aaron Draplin. He's one of my favorite graphic designers.
Nice. And what advice would you give to a student who's currently studying graphic design at State, so in that undergrad age area?
And just keep working hard, keep growing. The thing about now is that, well, back in the day, even before I graduated, like with Felton, he would always tell the story that he didn't have YouTube and all these resources at your hands. So we literally have the resources in our palms to kind of keep learning. So you don't have to be in class to learn. For example, when I did the Revenge of the Dreamer graphics, I learned how to animate on YouTube. He then asked me for the off-season tour posters, the Fire off-season logo. That was me, but that was basically because I learned it on YouTube. So at first, Felton asked me, "Can I do it? Can I put it on Fire?" Once again, I said, "Yeah, I can do it." And then I went to YouTube. So keep learning. Just always improve yourself. If you see something that you want to do, just do it.
Definitely. And I know that a lot of the art resources can be expensive, but whether it's the design library at NC State, YouTube, the DHL library, the Hunt library, we have so many pieces of technology, softwares,
Exactly.
people who can point you in the right direction, all for free with your tuition. So definitely check us out, check those resources out. If you're not at
The
State,
resources are there. Yeah.
yeah, they're there, they're out there. We also, with your Unity ID, you have access to LinkedIn Learning. So you can have a 2-hour professional video tutorial instead of the ones that are 10 minutes and they're telling you to subscribe every 2 minutes, which is fine. But if you want a professional video without that, there's access. I love that answer. Another question that we have, there's a bunch of questions coming in. Above the gift, talent, and skill that you have, can you speak about the drive and the resilience? Where did that come from?
Came from my dad. My dad's, how old are you? 67, still doing handstands, challenging people. He wants to talk. I'm not gonna let him talk because he talks too much. But we're super competitive. So that drive came from him. He put it in me and my brother. And we have a little sister that we push to the edge as well. And we're just super competitive. I also kept in mind when in New York, when I moved to New York and I was taking that hour-and-a-half train ride, most of the time I didn't want to take it. And it was snowing and raining, but I knew that I had to be in the city in order to be able to make it in the city. So I would take that train ride. And I always kept in mind that, hey, Mr. Lois, I always kept in mind that there are 100 artists. I'm sure half of you in this group are better than me, but will you be able to take the hour-and-a-half train ride that I do? So you have to be able to do things that other designers aren't able to do to stand out.
And then I have a question related to that. Thank you for the great question, Jordan. When you do get rejected, say for a job that you started dreaming about what you would do when you were on the job, or if someone just rejects the idea that you had, how do you not let that get into your head and stop you from continuing to go forward? Because I know that the fear of rejection is a fear that a lot of people
definitely
have.
And it's rejection sucks. Everybody doesn't like rejection. It's going to happen. My brother always says, this no is one no closer to your yes. So you always have to keep that in mind. Something hidden in this story that nobody really knows is that the building that I walked up to, that first building, the tall building that I was trying to get into and met the doorman, that was Spaco, who found me later on, the Broadway agency. So I walked into them, I applied to them for months and months, and I got denied. And they rejected me a bunch of times before I finally landed the job at 14Y. And then within the next year, they reached out to me, remembering my drive, remembering my passion. And I still stay connected with one person in that company. So it's all about the connections as well. And they remembered me, and then they reached out and gave me a position.
That's wild.
So
what
just,
yeah.
Don't let it stop you. If they reject you and you really want to go for that company, what's stopping you? Nothing's stopping you. Connect with somebody in that company, make friends, and build from that.
And so that's a great segue into our next question from V. which is, what do you think helps more, a great portfolio or a killer network? And then can you speak a little bit on building your network and building these bridges?
A good portfolio helps. A good portfolio helps. It has to be presentable. If you're a graphic designer and you're going to school for graphic design, don't come at somebody with a bad resume, a resume that's not well designed, or if they're typos. Always have to present yourself, present the portfolio. What was your networking?
Yeah.
Networking is basically you just always stay presentable. That's the main thing. If you're not presentable, nobody's going to want to talk to you. So make sure you're presentable. Smile, be happy. Don't go grumpy because you don't have a job. Make them think that you're happy that you don't have a job. And always keep working for yourself. Even if you don't have portfolio pieces, like nobody's giving you real work, make up something. I created most of the logos, a lot of the logos on my website were used to be just classwork pieces or any just a random company that I would make up to make it look real. Networking is all about who you know, so it doesn't hurt to reach out. The reason I'm at ESPN today is because I reached out to Chris Manzarez. I shout him out. Don't go into his DMs. I reached out to Chris Manzarez on LinkedIn. And all I said to him on LinkedIn was, hello, my name is Walter Barnet. I do this, this, that, and I want to be this. Is there opportunity to work with your team? Or I also said, is there opportunity to work with your team? If not, do you have time to speak just to connect? And I met with Chris. He did not have an opportunity, but I connected with him. I did that with him. I met Aaron Draplin that way. I met the creative director for the Portland Trailblazers that way. There's a lot of people that you meet just on LinkedIn, and you can build your network through that.
Yes, again, going back to making use of the resources that you have available right now, even if you're a student.
It's in front of your face, yeah. So start building that image on LinkedIn. I know a lot of people don't go on LinkedIn anymore. I don't go on LinkedIn anymore, but start building it. Find the people who have the job that you want, reach out to them and just talk to them about it. Don't ask for a job. You don't want anything from it. Just talk to them. Say, how did you get here? What are you doing now? And what's a typical job look like for you? And then build that connection from there.
Walter's just dropping gems all over the place, and I hope people are seeing one that they like and picking them up. I love it. We have another question from Lauren, and the question is, they are a senior at VSU. Their major is graphic design, and they would love to ask you, what is your process when designing a logo?
I know Lauren. Hey, Lauren. My process with designing a logo, I get pen and paper. I do not get on the computer until I know what I want to put on the computer. Pen and paper, and I just draw. The first page is going to suck. The second page is going to look a little better, but then you're going to realize that it sucks. And then you're going to go back to the first page and be like, okay, that was okay. So I gather all the logos that I liked, do 2 or 3, set them in the computer, present them to the client, do feedback, and it goes from there. Tomorrow, I'm going to bring, if anybody's in NC State tomorrow, I'm going to bring concept sketches that I did for Dreamer, and you can kind of see how that started from start to finish. And I'll send them to you, Lauren, and we can talk later.
Yeah, that's going to be 1:30 tomorrow at Holmes Hall, room 104. And we'll bring some paper and some pencils along with us so we can do an activity along with you when it comes to sketching out a logo. So if you can make it, please stop by. That'll be tomorrow at 1:30. So another question from Brennan is, can you speak to your circle? How important are those people who you keep in your corner?
So Brennan wants me to shout out the family, which is basically everybody in that screen that I showed. Really means a lot to me. Because of my inner circle, I'm able to dream without them shooting me down. So it's very important to have people in your inner circle who push up your dreams. People like a Brennan, who would always just support you and come to your soccer games, even though you suck or you don't play, and just support your logos, never give you bad feedback. But you also need those people who will give you the real feedback, such as Brennan, and just different people. I have my wife, I have Brennan, I have my family, I have Clifford, I have Brian, I have Daniel Felton, everybody kind of around me kind of motivates me to keep going.
So have a strong group of people who are steel sharp.
Have a strong group of people you trust, and
people
help them grow. Don't just let them don't just let them sit down, and be happy when somebody else gets something.
Yes, we could use more. Celebrate others' accomplishments, because you will be celebrated as well.
I see too many people get jealous, and everybody should be happy.
Yes, I agree. The next question is from Deanna Denton. Great name. Any tips for freelance designers regarding being confident with the prices you set for your services, especially when you're starting to break your way into the industry?
So Dee actually did some freelance work for me. I gave her some work recently. She's an amazing artist. Go follow her, find her on Instagram. You'll see her work. Any advice for freelance? Know your worth. If big clients are coming to you and they're real, then you're worth something. So know your worth. I can't tell you what exactly to charge. I can tell you that I started out coming out of college charging $70 a logo. And I talked to Felton, he told me that was stupid. So know your worth. Just know your worth. If you know that you have a high commodity, something very unique, something nobody else can give them, then why not?
Yeah, I agree. I think you have an insecurity when you're brand new, but you got to stop that real quick, because it's a real short step to people starting to take advantage of you, or not thinking as well that your art's not quality, because good work doesn't come cheap and cheap work doesn't come good. Exactly. The old adage.
So Felton also gives me,
go ahead.
Felton gives me this triangle where you can have good, cheap, and fast. If you want it good and cheap, it's not going to be fast. If you want it fast and cheap, it's not going to be good. If it's good and fast, it's not going to be cheap. Think about that when you're doing a logo. If somebody needs a logo and they need it by next week, tell them it can't be cheap or good. You got to pick one. You want it cheap or good.
I like that. We're going to make that a slide.
There you go.
This one seems like some inside details. It's Jermaine Armour. Your father always charges me a lot to do stuff for him. Do you charge a lot to do a design? It's kind of related to that last question.
Your father always... Reverend Jermaine's my marriage counselor. What is the question? Do I charge a lot for a design?
Yes.
Yes.
That's why I like, because it's good work and you're putting your name behind
quality. You're getting a good product. If you can pay $1,000 for an Apple phone, you can pay $1,000 for your logo. Your logo is going to last longer than that phone, I guarantee.
Yeah, and you never know. I think the lady who designed the Nike logo, they had to go back years after years to recompensate her, but I think she was a college student who got paid $250 at the time. And I don't think Nike knew they were going to be Nike, but you never know. You never know where your logo is going to take you, where that logo is going to go. So definitely charge what you can, and hopefully they come back and compensate you later if they decide to become a billion-dollar company. Next question, you get a lot of applause. Did you immediately know your art style when you first began designing? If not, how did you go about finding it and making your portfolio cohesive? Thank you for the question, Jordan.
Well, the thing about a cohesive portfolio is that I want people to know that I'm not a one-trick artist. I want them to know that I can do anything. I can animate, I can do something serious, and I can do something illustrative and cartoonish. I did not have a developed art style coming out of college. Even now, my art style is growing up. I mean, not growing. It's still growing. It changes every month. I find a new artist on Instagram or just looking around. I see things and it inspires me. Just like trends come and go. So my art style comes and goes. If I try and do what I did when I was in college, it won't come out the same. And when I look at my stuff in college, it doesn't look the same. It doesn't look like I did it. So it's always going to be like that. I know in a couple of years, this Dreamer logo is going to look different.
And then I bet it's fun when you come back to a style that you had in the beginning, but you've improved
Definitely.
so much in other ways, so you can look at it from a whole new light.
There's a set of iconic people that I illustrated, and I did this when I first moved to New York, and me and Daniel kind of collaborated on it. And he always tells me, go back to that style because I try to continue that series. And he says, go back to that style, go back to the style. But next thing you know, I'm adding like shadows and extra lines, and it's not the same. So it's hard to go back to a style, but it's always easy to evolve.
Definitely. And you should, if you're doing the same style that you were doing 6 years ago, you might want to look at it from a different angle and see if there's some growth going into it. I'm going to ask you a question and get my question in here real quick because I'm very interested to know when you're working with a high profile client like J. Cole, they're obviously super busy. They're trying to throw a festival, they're going on tour, they got an album. So I imagine there's not a ton of communication about their ideas. How do you balance not getting a lot of info, but also really wanting to knock it out of the park because it's such a high profile client?
That's a part of trusting yourself. For the Dreamer logo, I'll go more in depth tomorrow. They said the logo is Dreamer, and they said we want J. Cole dunking. Immediately, I go to like Shaq and all these silhouette, Michael Jordan, all these silhouette logos of people jumping and dunking and playing basketball. I said that's horrible. I don't want that. So I gave him what he wanted. He said dunking, so I gave him all his dunks in silhouette form. But I also drew a bunch of concepts that I believe signified Dreamer to me and what it meant to me. So I gave him a page of concepts with that. And the logo that he chose, this cloud logo, was actually one of the last illustration drawings that I did. And it was on a piece of paper. I got it right here, actually. It was, nope, that's not it. It was just an ugly, I have 100 sketchbook. It was an ugly, like just really random, sketchy picture of a cloud, and I wrote Dreamer inside. And then he pointed at it, he's like, that's it, that's the one. And so we just kind of ran with that. And that's a part of trusting yourself, trusting your gut, trusting your creative capability. If a big client comes to you, they're coming to you for a reason. They've seen your style, they know your style. So just build off of that.
Beautiful, thank you. We have a question from Brian. How do you balance celebrating what you have accomplished, but still stay hungry and not get complacent?
I have a problem celebrating. I think that's the thing. When I get the big client, like a J. Cole, like even with the Dreamer logo, it's still kind of numb to me because I'm so ready for the next thing. So I'm always kind of hungry. But I know it's very important to kind of pause and celebrate your wins because they don't come often. You get more L's than wins, trust me. So I know it's important to stop and just celebrate. So this off-season stretch and this jersey and all this other stuff is kind of me celebrating my win. And just it's hard to stay hungry when you're doing stuff, but if you realize that in order to keep doing that same thing, you have to grow, then the hunger will come.
Definitely. And we hope that you have a chance to celebrate this weekend at Dreamville Festival. Look forward to seeing you out there. We have a question from Martha for your freelance work, how do you protect your intellectual property? Great question.
Well, you have to be original. Freelance work basically goes to the client. So once the client has it, it's theirs to do whatever with. As long as you have that agreement with the client. If you have an agreement where you also want to sell it or do something, then make sure that it's in writing, make sure you have a contract. And you already, since it's your work, you naturally have a trademark because it's your work. But it's always good to get that trademark on the side just in case. Yeah, and the more unique you are, the more unlikely it is that somebody can be able to copy it. But you do see copycats all the time. I see them all the time. I'm getting to the point where people are starting to copy Dreamer. It's cool, but get your own stuff.
Get your own style. It's a form of flattery. It means they see what you're doing. But like you said, get your own style though. Because what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Cliff Barnett asks, in so many words, what's next?
Growth. That's my brother.
Oh, nice.
Growth. Continue to learn. I will always be learning. I'm gonna grow within the ESPN company. Right now, I can announce this now since it's announced that ESPN's doing a Jackie 75 series for his 75th anniversary. And I did the logo and branding around that. So when you see that on ESPN throughout the next couple months, that'll be me. So it's just kind of just continue learning, continue growing, continue YouTubing how to make reflective lighting on trophies.
Congratulations. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Brian Bowman says, as an artist working mainly in the digital realm, what are your thoughts on NFTs?
I mean, people have been trying to get me to do NFTs for a minute, and I keep refusing because I'm so focused on doing fundable tokens, not non-fundable. I have no real opinion on NFTs. I'm not really into the digital world yet. I'm just into the digital art world. Sorry, Brian. I don't know.
Digital art for the real world.
For the real world.
Jimmy, and we have about 5 minutes. So if anybody has any last questions, please throw them in the chat and I'll try my best to get to them. But Jimmy says, have you ever had to deal with imposter syndrome or feeling like you were in over your head? Something I think a lot of our students feel when they're going for interviews or for that gig.
Yeah. My first time when I was at Dreamville office doing the thing that I didn't know how to do, that was me in my head. The way I got over it was my competitiveness and wanting to be better and wanting this big work. So if you're in over your head, then that's dreaming and that's making you scared, then you're doing it right. Like I said, if you're dreaming, if your dreams are not scaring you, then you're not dreaming big enough. So it sounds like Jeremy's dreaming big enough and he has to go get it now.
Definitely. And I think life has a way of putting you in those moments. And as long as you've practiced, as long as you've studied your craft, you'll be just fine. A lot of the times you think it's bigger than the moment actually is, and you'll do just fine. And
you're in the rooms for a reason.
Yeah.
So if they invited you there, you're there for a reason. You're valued.
Definitely. Helen asks, what do you do other than graphic design?
Helen's my sister. She's another amazing artist. Follow her, Helen B Art, or something like that. I'm sorry. If you search Helen Barnett, throw it in chat, Helen. What do I do other than graphic design? I enjoy hanging out with my wife, keeping her happy. She keeps me happy. We have a small garden over here that we keep healthy. I also do physical art. I try to paint. I'm not as good as Helen. Dang, this is recorded, so she's gonna screenshot that. Helen paints more than me, so I still try to paint and draw. I enjoy just chilling, really, when I'm not in front of a computer. I like staying away from the computer and hanging out with family and friends.
We have about 2 minutes left. Do you want to just grab a couple of the items behind you and kind of show them so we can see what they look like and talk about maybe one or two of your favorite pieces?
So this is the Dreamer shoe, the first rendition of the shoe. They send me this shoe every now and then. The logo's on the back, logo's in the sole, the logo's on the box. This ball, I'm gonna knock it down. That was loud, sorry. This ball was actually the ball they used for the cover shoot that was in J. Cole's hands. After the shoot, after Cole left and everything, they asked me if I wanted to keep a ball. They had like 6 of these balls. And I said, yeah, of course I want to keep a ball. I did it. And then so they asked me which ball I want to take home. And so naturally I pointed at the one Cole was holding, did that one. And so they gave me this ball, the Dreamer jersey. I did all the Dreamer jerseys. If you went to the off-season tour and you saw him in a Dreamer jersey, I designed all those from Atlanta to Dallas to every single city he toured on. I did those jerseys. Those are my favorite Cole pieces. Any freelance stuff, I have stickers, which I will bring tomorrow. If you come and meet and greet with me, I'll have some stickers that I'll be able to give to you guys. My mom's showing her, you can't see it, but she has a Tina Turner sticker on her phone right now. So I'll bring some of those stickers and I'll give them out to whoever wants to come and meet me.
Yeah, it's perfect way to wrap it up because we are going to be live and in person tomorrow, the day before Dreamville, 1:30 p.m. at Holmes Hall. Walt's going to be handing out stickers, talking, shaking hands, kissing babies. We're going to talk about going through a logo design. We're going to be sketching along with him. There will be pizza. We'll put the recording probably on our library's Twitch page, so you can always reference this. I'll send it out. I think I have everybody's email who registered. And we'll definitely be able to publish this on the library's page somewhere. I do want to give a shout out to Making Space team and the libraries. We have a bunch of the resources, tech-wise or software-wise. So definitely come in and grab those, check those out, and play around with them. If you're interested at all, whether it's your main passion or not, it can be a great way to de-stress if you're just doing like chemical engineering all day and you need to take a break from that world. Art can be a really, really great de-stressor and hobby. But most of all, I want to thank you, Walt. I want to thank you, Nook, for holding it down and dropping all these gems.
Thank you.
It was really inspiring.
Thank you. It means a lot. If anybody has any question and they were just a little scared to type those questions in, feel free to find me on Instagram, Facebook, anything. All you got to do is look up Walter C. Barnett. You can also go to waltercbarnett.com. You'll see stickers. You'll see my work. You can contact me, ask me any questions. Just connect. I'm here to connect. There's a bunch of positions opening up at ESPN. I can probably hook you up with something there. Just connect with me and we can talk.
ESPN, I'm coming for something. Appreciate it, Walt. We'll see you tomorrow.
No problem.
Thank you, everybody. Have fun at Dreamville this weekend and have a good night.
Have fun. Be safe.